Esports winter hit everybody hard, but for 100 Thieves, the goal for 2024 was always profitability, or at least that was said almost 1 year ago today, as John Robinson, Malk, Nadeshot, and crew went on an hour-long podcast to talk about how the business is going to change in the upcoming year, and I think it's time to revisit that. The reason why this is important for those that don't understand finance is that annual operating plans are happening right now for next year. Yes, all the things that are going to happen over the course of 2025 are likely being set in motion as we speak right now. So let's try and think through what the next year might look like for 100 Thieves, especially as one massive question mark kind of looms over the entire program. But first, if you haven't already done so, be sure to subscribe to my channel. We are on the road to 5,000 by the end of the year. Hopefully we can get there. Drop a like on your way down, and let's kick it back. So first, let's actually look at this cast of people that was with 100 Thieves at that point last year when all of these new directives were put out, because believe it or not, half of the people on this couch, not at 100 Thieves anymore. Starting on the far left, Joe, aka Joey. He was, I think, like the direct assistant to Nadeshot. He actually went on to no longer be an assistant. He didn't take a full-time role at 100 Thieves, instead went talent management. He left, I think, towards the end of last year, give or take. But the bigger one that moved on was John Robinson himself, the CEO of 100 Thieves. Announced his departure, that he would no longer be with 100 Thieves. He was with us really since the beginning, before I even became a fan, like back in the old days, the 2017, 2018 Rocket Mortgage, Dan Gilbert days. Yeah, that long ago. What's odd is if you go to his Twitter, he actually doesn't have his current job on there, but it's not like he's doing nothing. If you go to his LinkedIn, you will find out that he's actually a vice president at EA. Yeah, Electronic Arts. Hang on, I got my laptop in front of me. Let me look up what exactly it was. VP head of corporate development at Electronic Arts. So he got out of esports entirely and just went back to general gaming, which, to be fair, if you remember the conversations that he had early on, that's his love. He loves gaming in general, so maybe he's burnt out on esports. But to go from being CEO back to VP level, interesting. Really, really interesting. So he's out of 100 Thieves. Nadeshot, obviously, still a big part of 100 Thieves, but his role has clearly changed. Since the second round of layoffs, he kind of said that he wanted to take a step back from the day-to-day business, and he has, because if you look in the hours that he has streamed this year, it is bluntly clear he's putting in about 38 hours a week average of streaming. Now, obviously, he'll binge sometimes more than others, but you can't do those kinds of streaming hours while also supporting 100 Thieves business day to day. So clearly he has a much more step back role than what he was before. Now, there's no clue on social media as to what exactly he's doing now, how it differs from the day to day that he was doing previously. But yeah, you can't put in those streaming hours while being CEO or like high level of a company like this. You just can't. Maybe he shifted back to being more of a content creator. I don't know. But the big promotion is that Malk, the guy at the far end, president of 100 Thieves. He has continued to climb the corporate ladder and is now one of the most influential, if not the most influential person at 100 Thieves, other than like the board of directors. So yeah, pretty big moment. But the main thing discussed in that episode was that they were setting a goal for profitability. We were in the middle of esports winter, and we still somewhat are, where people had to get laid off, they had to downsize to get the business to the right spot where they can make money sustainably long term without losing a bunch, because VC has pulled out, they no longer have that kind of fund. So it's a matter of like get to break even, and if a segment can grow from there and develop additional revenues, then fine. Otherwise, likely you sell it off. But let's go back. What things have happened since that video back in 2023? Well, the first thing was the inaugural 100 Thieves block party, or summer block party, that they had out in LA, which inaugural means the first. I would assume there's more to come based on that. We're not through with summer yet. But that event seemed to be pretty well received last year. It seemed like every video that I saw coming from it, every picture, was pretty good. So in general, it's just a good sign that you can get fans to turn up for something like that. Now, how many of them were 100 Thieves fans versus just LA locals that were, had a party to go to? I don't know, I couldn't tell you. But at a minimum, it's still a good sign for the org nevertheless. On the collab front, okay, so we're an esports winter. Are there still going to be these massive blockbuster deals that 100 Thieves would be doing with people? And the answer, oh yeah. Just to rattle off the list, over the last year, Dragon Ball Z, Pokemon, and then additional deals with Adidas, who obviously did our jersey and did other apparel, and then sponsorship deals with Croc and Oakley. Like, putting all those names together, that is an insane list of partnerships in the middle of what is supposed to be one of the hardest times to get deals in esports history. Now, that could obviously be for lower dollar amounts. We have no clue. Obviously, it's not what it once was in 2019, but like those names alone should give you some reassurance that at minimum, like esports aside, the org is doing well. We are doing collabs that we can earn money from. People are looking to partner with us because we see that as a way, or they see us as a potential moneymaker and a way to access certain gaming crowds and certain niche communities within the overall younger sectors. So that's good. Also, within the last year, golf within 100 Thieves had like a massive boon as they had a partnership with Malvin. Nadeshot did his hole-in-one challenge, but honestly, that kind of died off after that. Like, we haven't heard or seen literally anything. Actually, funnily enough, I saw somebody post on the 100 Thieves Reddit the other day about like, hey, new 100 Thieves golf apparel coming. I got excited. No, it was the same thing from like 2 years ago that they just reposted. So no, we're not getting any additional golf stuff to my dismay, but still cool that they did something like that, and we're kind of branching out a little bit and stretching the the content muscles a little bit. They had a full AT&T partnership. They basically made it look like a full tour event. It was a really nice thing. And finally, there was a new batch of content creators that were brought in at the beginning of this year to symbolize, yes, they are still trying to get new talent and get fresh faces to represent the org. Now, this is an interesting one because I've personally been very critical of how 100 Thieves has handled the creators. Now, whether that's on the org or the creators, I have no clue. But the fact that like none of them show up in YouTube videos directly on the 100 Thieves social media channels, yes, they all stream individually, and most notably, some of them were at the Pokemon Go event here in New York City this past weekend. I didn't get to go, I was busy, but also Pokemon Go isn't really my thing. But obviously, like, the individual creators themselves are great and would be good representatives of the brand. It's just like, as a League fan, as somebody that needs like the general 100 Thieves content to be able to be introduced to people like this, I have not been introduced to them. And I follow 100 Thieves more than most other people do, especially during like my little sector. So I can't say that like as a League fan, like it inspires all that much confidence. We'll go into the individual teams here in a second, but like it is worth noting the timeline of how all this happened. So if you watch, I think it was actually King Wools. I just had to double check on this. He posted a video about 3 months ago, kind of like documenting the entire thing. He had a camera guy follow him all the way around. If you go back and watch it, you can actually see the timeline. It took like 6 months from the time that like they were talked to as creators to the time that it was signed and announced, which is an absurdly long period of time, but it also gives you a hint of like, okay, is this going to be an annual thing? Is 100 Thieves going to bring in new creators each and every year? The answer to that is clearly no. They're not going to be able to do something like that because then you'd expand the pool of creators too much, and it's not like they've done all that much with them individually. Like, I can't honestly say that like every single creator that they brought in like helps grow the 100T brand, even if like obviously the 100T brand helps them and individually on stream they might push it, but like from a general perspective, you just don't get that sense of feeling. Specifically, none of them are League creators, nor really talk about League, nor reference it at all. Trust me, if they did, you'd see it on these videos more often. So that's been the last year. Still a good amount of collaborations, a good amount of things going on outside of like the direct esports front. So on the esports and team front, let's dive in a little bit there. For Valorant, I'm not quite familiar with how big their budget was like last year, but I just know they weren't all that good. So then this year, they were able to pick up notably Boostio on a very low contract apparently from EG. I don't know if there was a bidding war for him or not, but if every segment was responsible for being break even this year, you would assume it wasn't much. And the team saw some success on that budget. Obviously, they qualified to an international event. They didn't perform great there. They win a split of the VCT Americas, which is phenomenal. But recently I had a conversation about whether winning directly turns people into fans of 100 Thieves. And for 100 Thieves specifically, there's an easy way to track this, and that is your VCT skin bundle sales. If you have more fans, in theory, more people will buy the bundle, but we don't know that information. And I really wish Riot would put it out there, because we could see, like, okay, you could track it before 100 Thieves wins their event. They win the event. Do they sell more bundles? They go to Shanghai. Do they sell more there? Like, that's an easy way to track fandom, but we have no way to find out. But at least at a minimum, there is an active effort on Riot's front to work with all the different teams to make sure that they have options for monetization, including obviously buying a pistol in game or buying a player card. So there's at least effort on that side. Obviously 100 Thieves releases a music video as well. So like clearly over the course of the last year, they have been trying hard when it comes to Valorant on all fronts, on the social front, on the competitive front. Everything within the Valorant program seems like it is going well, and they are putting their full full foot forward, which is good. Good sign for them. Call of Duty, well, at the time of that video last year, they actually just won a tournament, and then going into the next year, going into Modern Warfare 3, they had to drop a bunch of people and then basically go with a budget roster, which there's still one or two like positive signs for them, but overall, like anybody that's followed COD can tell you this has not been a good year for them in terms of results for the esports program. But in general, they also just had a Fallout collaboration for the LA Thieves and them. Like clearly there's a good relationship between Activision Blizzard and 100 Thieves. They're trusting them to throw events like that. There's also the in-game monetization on the LA Thieves side for Call of Duty. Again, overall positive signs. I'm not gonna speak too much on it because I'm more of an Optic fan, but overall there's positive signs of like both sides like trying to work with each other. Activision trying to push stuff for the teams to be able to monetize. For 100 Thieves, they were clearly trying to sell skins, clearly throwing the Fallout events. Good for them. League of Legends. I feel like most people that watch this video probably know the history of League. If you don't and you're watching this because of 100 Thieves, first and foremost, welcome. Second, we went full budget roster this year, building around younger players, including Sniper, who's been in our academy development system for a long period of time. Content-wise, not really much more than what we got in the past year, what we got prior to that. Collaboration-wise, nothing. Riot doesn't do anything for the individual teams as of right now. There's a restructuring coming next year to the LoL esports ecosystem. 2 teams have to drop out of the league next year, and one of them is rumored to potentially be 100 Thieves, or at least amid conversations that people have had of like, does 100 Thieves want to be involved? So like if we're talking about the success of the 100 Thieves League program, is it profitable? Yeah, probably. I'd be willing to bet that it actually is, given the stipends that they have and the roster that we have. Yeah, they probably make money. But is that good enough to keep them as part of the brand? Because when you look at like everything else that we just talked about with Valorant and with Call of Duty, there's things beyond just the esports team that make it feel culturally like it's there. For League, despite this being one of the original programs of 100 Thieves, I don't get that feeling at all. And part of that's on Riot. A good portion of that is on Riot for not having ways for them to interact at all, which apparently will be changing, which is good. But the question is, does 100 Thieves care enough and do they trust Riot enough to stick around at that point? I don't know. I would hope so, as a 100 Thieves fan, obviously. Especially when you have Arcane coming out this next year. Like, League's popularity should see a bit of a spike, and you're seeing a wave of new fandom join the LCS and just all this excitement around it. So it's just like, the opportunity is there to do something with this if we want to grow it, but it is going to take time and effort. More effort, honestly, than we are currently putting in on both the content front. We're going to have to improve some of the pieces on our team, which I'll get into that when the season's done. But everybody knows at this point there are upgrades that we will have to make if we want to be a championship contender. The ultimate question just comes down to whether 100 Thieves sees League of Legends as culturally relevant to their organization going forward. And when looking at it and trying to assess what decision they will likely make going into 2025 of whether they will take that buyout from Riot Games and leave League of Legends or not, the indication's not fully there that they would be willing to stick around, if I'm being honest. Now, this could just be me, and I'm begging, like, the Sabrina Carpenter song's been stuck in my head for weeks. It's the intro to this video, and it has just been the thing on my mind the entire time. Please, 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 don't prove I'm right. Don't leave whenever I think that you are. I'm not going to try and sit here and make the argument of, oh, League was one of the original pillars of 100 Thieves. Businesses evolve and they move on. The question is, can it be a pillar of 100 Thieves moving forward? And the answer is simply put, yes, it can. You can still develop fans of League. There's efforts that can be made if you are willing to put in the time and the effort, because it's going to take more work than it does for Valorant and Call of Duty. It is a different subsection of fans. It's not FPS. I get all that. But you're already operating at a break-even basis. I know budgets are going to drop a little bit next year, but you have a bigger brand than most do in the space. I'm dead serious when I say I will offer 20 hours of my time a week, try and keep this around for reasonable pay. Like, bring me on and I will help. And it's starting to rain, which means it's a good sign to wrap this up. So where does 100 Thieves stand 1 year later from that video? Honestly, in a pretty good spot. In a very good spot as an organization where costs are cut back, everything is scaled back. The color schemes, by the way, of the new rebrand are great. I asked people on Twitter what their thoughts were, and I really only got one thing back, and that was, please don't cut the League program. I know that decision's being made right now, and I don't know what else to say other than please.